Well, we are now ready for the next group of candidates to speak tonight, and this will be for Nevada State Assembly 39. And with us tonight, we have Ken Gray and Blaine Osborne. And with that card draw, Mr. Gray won the card draw, so this will be your 1 minute opening remarks.
Correction, madam. I lost the card draw.
Oh, you're correct.
Honesty.
You get to close first, though. Mr. Blaine Osborne, your 1 minute opening.
All right, thank you very much. First, I want to say thank you to the Business Council of Douglas County, the Chamber of Commerce, all of the sponsors tonight, and all of our moderators for putting this on. It's a great honor for me to be up here and taking part in this tradition, which has lasted for so many years. My name is Blaine Osborne, and I'm running for State Assembly District 39. That's all of Douglas County, Dayton, Stagecoach, and Silver Springs. I'm a native Nevadan, born and raised right here in Douglas County. I graduated from Douglas High School, and it was in my senior year of high school when I actually had to have a scoliosis surgery. And as a result of that, I was not able to serve in the United States Marine Corps. So I had to find other ways to serve. I had to find other ways to get involved. That led me to working as staff in the state legislature for our Assembly and Senate Republicans, getting involved with the Douglas County Airport Advisory Commission, the Douglas County School District, and so many of our other local community groups like the Carson Valley United Methodist Church and Leadership Douglas County. Thank you.
And gentlemen, you may have noticed that our timer has added a bell.
Oh.
Mr. Gray, your opening remarks.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I got into this race because I'm a fighter. I spent 26 years in the military, retired as an E9. You don't get that far without being a fighter. I'm doing this for my wife, my two daughters who also serve in the military, and my son-in-law, and actually my daughter's boyfriend. I'm also doing it for you, we the people. We need to start sending citizen legislators back to our governing bodies and not professional politicians. That's what makes me the most qualified person there, because I do have legislative experience at the county level, and I know what they do and when they do it at the legislature, what the effect is on we the people and the governments. We've got to put a stop to that. So I am just asking for your support going forward. We need to send a very strong voice to our state legislator to stand up for we the people. Thank you.
So the first question will go to Mr. Gray. And obviously, as a state legislator, one of the most important things you do is write bills. So would you walk us through the bill draft process?
I will start each bill in conjunction with the community and the people that it's going to affect. They'll bring their idea in. I'll sit down with my staff assistant, which, Mr. Osborne has a lot of experience doing. I've actually worked with him on one before. And we will put it through the process. We'll get people to sign on to it. I will always look for bipartisan support, although that may not be the case, with every bill, because the Democrats have a habit of saying no to the Republicans. But if it's a bill worth fighting for, I'm going to fight for it to get it through and get it out of the different subcommittees and things, because that's where a lot of our bills actually wind up dying, is in subcommittee. This past few legislative sessions have been horrible. They've waited until the very last minute to take action on a lot of bills, and things have died that shouldn't have died. One that I could think of that has died that shouldn't have died was making adoption easier and more affordable in Nevada. That died in a finance committee. Assemblyman Wheeler, one of his bills. Thank you. I'll cut it.
Mr. Osborne, same question.
Thank you for the question. I think the bill draft process really starts in the community, and that's why I try to spend so much time in the community myself, talking to groups like the Chamber of Commerce, the Business Council, other representatives in the community, because that bill draft idea, once that comes in from a member of the community, then we push it through the process. It goes through the state's legal division. It goes, it eventually becomes a bill and has to go through both committees in the Assembly and the Senate, and then eventually it has to be signed by the governor. That's really one of the toughest things. In the state legislature, you're one out of 63 individuals. So you better be able to work with folks. You better be able to convince folks to support that idea in order to make it through the process.
So the next question, we'll start with Mr. Osborne. What would be the biggest issue you would tackle if elected to serve in the Nevada legislature?
Great question. I think there's two major issues facing the state currently, and both relate to how we get past COVID. The first being the federal spending that is occurring currently with the ARPA dollars and the infrastructure bill. I look at a lot of these proposals that Governor Sisolak has pushed forward. These are ongoing programs, $250 million to rent control, things of that nature that will force legislators to raise taxes in the future if we don't have strong representatives to stand up and fight that. The second is healthcare in general. We need more doctors in this state. We need 1,500 doctors in order to be average in the country. We got to do something to bring in better healthcare providers, and I think we can do that next legislative session.
Mr. Gray, same question.
Thank you. I got news for you. There are way more than two problems facing this state. One of them is infringement on our personal rights. We've seen that through Governor Sisolak and what he's done. I have taken him on personally, and I'll tell you, he hates me with a purple passion. I hand-delivered a letter to his office 1 month into the COVID lockdown. Not only did he not see us, he never even responded to us about that letter. It was myself and Commissioner Jay Carmona out of Story County. So that's the first item. Other items that they've attacked in the legislature on us are our Second Amendment rights. I'm a Nevada Firearms Coalition A+ rated person, and I will continue to fight for our Second Amendment rights and all of our amendment rights, all of our constitutional rights. Additionally, I have a track record of already doing that and not backing down. I will not be a puppet for other legislators. I will not back down in the face of controversy. We've seen this, especially in one instance. We wanted to name something in our county after President Trump, after the millions of dollars he put in our county, and we named the Lyon County Justice Complex after him through my efforts.
So in this question, we'll first go to Mr. Gray. What will you do to fully implement the long-delayed program of all-inclusive care for the elderly, the PACE program, in Nevada?
Well, I'm sorry. I thought he was first on this one. I will be the first. I'll be the first one to be honest with you. I am not familiar with the PACE program, but I will reach out to private physicians and non-governmental physicians and see what their thoughts are on it. I've got my actual personal physician advisor sitting here in the audience, and I go to him with all of my science and medical-related questions. I don't pretend to be the guy in the room. Even though I spent 22 of my 26 years in the military in healthcare and have a degree in healthcare administration, I'm not going to be the know-all to end-all. So I'm going to reach out, and we'll figure out a way. If it's something that needs to be implemented, we'll get it implemented. But I will tell you, before I work on getting anything implemented, it's got to pass two tests, and as with any legislation that's going to come across my desk. One, it's got to be constitutional. It has to pass that test. We've seen far too many things that, cross the line of constitutionality. Second, it's got to be good for the people. We say, you say it's universal health care for elderly. I am not a single-payer fan. I am not a fan of universal health care. So you're going to have to convince me, you're going to have to convince me that's good for the people.
Mr. Osborne, same question.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that program hasn't been implemented, and there's many more like it. To me, it starts with knowing the legislative branch's role, and that's being a check and balance on the other branches of government, including the executive branch. We've looked at the way this administration under Governor Sisolak has implemented or failed to implement some of these programs. I look at the Department of Motor Vehicles. I look at the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation and how they unfairly administered the unemployment program over the last 2 years. The legislature needs to hold these folks accountable. What happened under COVID was an absolute shame. And for the PACE program or for any of these others, it's going to take strong legislators who know what they're doing to be able to hold these other branches of government accountable.
So, there's this rumor going around that sometimes legislators don't play well together. Hard to believe, I know. So, our question is, and this will go first to Mr. Osborne, how do you plan to build consensus in an environment that is currently in opposition of conservative ideas in business, education, and other areas?
Great question. Thank you. That is the understatement of a century, I think. Looking at these past two legislative sessions in particular, they've been probably the most anti-business legislative sessions in the history of the state of Nevada. You know, you have to, as I mentioned earlier, in that state legislature, you're 1 out of 63, 64 if you want to count the governor. With all due respect to my opponent, this is not the Lyon County Commission where you need to convince 2 other Republicans to vote with you on something. You have to convince the majority of 64 to go with you. That include, you know, we haven't had more than 32 Republicans in the legislature in a long while. It's going to take sitting down, having hard conversations with folks across the aisle to be able to get any of this done. I've worked really hard in my legislative career as staff to build those relationships, and that's only going to continue as a legislator.
Mr. Gray, same question.
Yeah, I will tell you, I've got a lot of very strong relationships in the legislature as well. But I do want to point out one thing. Our Republican legislature has not performed all that well, and you know, going along to get along isn't the best. Mr. Osborne, with all due respect, who worked for Senator Hardy, passed the commerce tax, the largest tax increase in Nevada history. You know, and he signed on to both of those. Where was his voice when his boss was doing that? I mean, he has made the statement that he was, in our last debate, that he was already doing the job, so why didn't we hear about it then? I am not a go along to get along guy. I will stand for our principles. I will stand for we the people, and I will, if I have to be intransigent to stop bad legislation, I will. We are in the minority. I am not holding out any hopes that we are going to get any really good legislation passed. I am going there to fight bad legislation, because anytime this legislature has taken action recently has had an effect on business and has an effect on we the people.
Rebuttal.
Go ahead.
Great, thank you. You know, that's something my opponent likes to do, is point out some of the members I've worked for while conveniently leaving out some of the other members I've worked for. I've worked for our Assembly Republicans and Senate Republicans for 7 straight legislative sessions. I've worked for folks like Senator James Settlemeyer, folks that in 2019, when the governor broke the Constitution and signed on to the extension of the MBT taxes, Senator Settlemeyer and our 7 Senate Republicans signed on to a lawsuit to defeat that. And it took a long process, but it won. Those are the things that we get done.
Yes, Senator Settlemeyer did a great job on that one.
Okay, you know, we often hear that Nevada ranks last in different areas. Those of us that live here may not agree, but we do have to work on those things, obviously. So with this question, and I believe it goes to Mr. Gray first, how will you ensure that Nevada gets out of last place in mental health care?
That's a battle we've been fighting in Lyon County. We have no places in Lyon County for mental health care. Our law enforcement is overwhelmed. The number one provider for for mental health care in our county is in the jail. Things we've actually done are implement the MOST and the FAST program so we can actually provide mental health care before it gets to the jails. One thing I will do is I will work and look at other programs to reduce their funding to produce rural mental health care for our rurals. And a big portion of that is going to be drug treatment, drug addiction. We have got to make sure that the root of the problem is being addressed, not just the consequences of the problem. So I believe in, I don't believe in increasing government revenue. I will look for other places to go instead of taxing even further.
Mr. Osborne, same question.
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier with healthcare in general, I would include mental health in that as being one of the biggest challenges facing the state of Nevada today. I've been very proud to work in the state legislature on some of these issues for the last couple of sessions, working with our regional behavioral health boards. We've passed 2 bills in the last 2 legislative sessions, Senate Bill 70 and AB 85, that have completely rewritten Chapter 433A of the NRS that addresses Nevada's mental health crisis hold system, working on programs like FAST and MOST, working with our law enforcement and our hospitals to be able to get these folks the treatment that they need. And I look forward to being able to continue to do that and improve the state of Nevada's mental health care system.
Okay, gentlemen, we're now at that time where you get a whopping minute and 30 seconds for your last sales pitch. And with this, we'll start with Mr. Gray, the closing remarks.
Did we get the audience questions?
Yes, we had audience questions.
Okay, they weren't identified. I'm sorry. Like I said, we are in a position in this country at all levels where we need to send fighters. We've got to stop backing down. There are still things in this country worth fighting for at every level, and that's what I'm going there to do. I may not be a process guy. I have not been a cog in the wheel at the legislature, but I've walked those halls. I was walking those halls before my opponent was even out of high school. I worked on behalf of the National Guard, working on their programs at the legislature and trying to get consensus there, and we did. We got some great things out of the legislature. I am not a newbie at this. I am a fighter, and I am going to fight for us. I am not going to be a lifelong career politician. I will do no more than 4 terms. I was looking forward to retiring after this term in the county commission. 2 terms was enough for me. I am looking forward to being able to go to see my daughter and grandkids in Texas and commuting back and forth. So, like I said, 4 terms. I'm not going to participate in the state retirement system. I am not a lobbyist. I don't have a lobbyist background. And I will continue to fight for we, the people, at every level. Thank you.
Mr. Osborne?
Thank you. Well, thank you. I am not a professional politician or a establishment guy, as my opponent has made me out to be. I just find it disingenuous to be labeled as a career politician or any of these kind of things when this is the first time I've ever run for office. Yet my opponent's been running every election he was eligible since 2012. That's 2012, 2016, 20, 22, and now to say that you're going to run for 3 or 4 terms in the assembly, I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a heck of a career to me. Now, with that being said, my name is Blaine Osborne. I'm running for state assembly.
Rebuttal, please.
And
Not on closing remarks.
I haven't gotten any rebuttals. You got rebuttals.
But it's closing remarks, but it's not a question.
All right, thank you.
with all due respect, again, my name is Blaine Osborne, and I am a native Nevadan, born and raised in this community. I love it here. This is my home. This is where I want to serve, and I appreciate this opportunity to stand in front of you today. We've had really great men like Jake Jacobson, Lynn Hetrick, James Settlemeyer, and others represent this county and this district, and it would be my honor to go to Carson City and try to serve with the same reverence and respect that those men have. I would respectfully ask for your vote in this upcoming election. Thank you.
And I certainly appreciate the fact that having time limits is frustrating and you have more to say. So we do hope you'll hang around and talk to these wonderful voters before you leave this evening.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.